Namaste to each of you. Thank you for joining me this morning to honor your mind and your body and your spirit. Let's start this morning by finding a nice, comfortable seated position on a cushion or block, blanket, something that allows your spine and the back of your neck to sit nice and long and tall, reaching your crown of your head up to the sky, opening up your chest and opening up your diaphragm and opening up your heart. Let's just gently close our eyes and soften our thoughts. Soften our eyes, the way we look at things. Soften our shoulders. Just kind of get that tension and relax away from it. And soften our heart. Observe your breath as it is. Soft and gentle. Breathing life into you with each inhale and relaxation with each exhale. Feel the grace of being present, returning to that awareness again and again. You may open your eyes now. For this morning's intention, you may think of a positive word or a phrase to have with you on your mat, or perhaps carry with you throughout the day. This morning's intention I'd like to share is Happy Lunar New Year. The Lunar New Year began this past Tuesday, February 17th, which falls on the second new moon after the winter solstice. That's when Lunar New Year always falls, second new moon after winter solstice. And this year it's ushering in the year of the Yang fire horse. Hot horse. This year will mark a dramatic, energetic shift from the inward, contemplative Yin Wood Snake of last year into an expansive, expressive, and action-oriented Yang fire horse phase. I'm going to do a little editorial note on this. If last year was inward, contemplative, and this year is going to be expansive, expressive, action, hold on to your seat. Because I don't think I'm like, well, maybe they got the years reversed. But anyway, that's my editorial comment. But okay, so if last year asked us to pause, reflect, and shed old skins, the fire horse now urges us to move, act, speak, and live boldly. Expect speed, intensity, and strong emotions. And so, how do we ride the horse without being thrown? We need to regulate our energy. Passion needs grounding. Expression needs listening. Action needs rest. When fire is tended wisely, it brings warmth, connection, and illumination. So may this year inspire you to live with courage, joy, and integrity while staying rooted in balance, breath, and heart centered awareness. Ride this horse well. And that was an excerpt taken from Dr. Carrie Boyle at the Integrative Acupuncture in Montpelier and Williston. Every Lunar New Year, that office sends out a description of what the new lunar year is and what we can expect from it. But again, my editorial comment was like, whoa, hang on to your horse, because anyway, we'll see what happens. So with that, let us begin our asana practice. So we'll start with some seated sun breaths, and those are yang, warming. So the yang fire horse is just like double heat to it. So we'll start off with the yang, and we'll do the sun breaths and chest opener. So bringing our fingertips to the side and lifting our hands slowly up overhead with a big inhale. And exhale, bringing the hands down to heart center. Then inhale, opening them up wide to each side, bringing them as far back as you can, opening up your chest, opening up your heart. And then bringing them back together on the exhale. Then inhale up. And exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale open. Exhale close. Inhale up. And exhale down. And we'll do one more. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale open. Exhale close. Inhale up. And exhale down. With our right fingertips on the mat, we're going to lift our left arm up along our ear and then bend our right elbow, having a nice gentle side stretch over to the right. And then coming back up again. And then we'll bring the left fingertips down, bringing the right arm up along the ear. And then taking the left elbow, bring it down toward the mat, tilting ourselves over to the left. And then back up again. We'll do that one more time on each side. So bringing the right fingertips down, left arm goes up, right elbow goes down toward the mat, tilting our torso over to the right. And then coming back up again. And bringing the left fingertips down to the mat. Right arm goes up alongside the ear. bringing the left elbow down toward the mat, tilting over to the left, and then coming back up again. And then we'll bring the soles of our feet together, coming into cobbler's pose. Just get nice and comfy in that. And you can either wrap your fingers, interlacing your fingers around your toes, or holding onto your ankles, which is more comfortable for you. And then sending your elbows toward your knees, you're gonna just pivot from the waist and look forward. Kind of do a little bit of a lower back stretch. And stretch on the inner thighs. Then come back to this upright position. And then we'll again bring our elbows toward our knees, pivoting from the waist, leaning over with a nice straight back. And then back up again. And one last time. Elbows go in the direction of the knees, pivoting from the waist with a nice straight back, leaning forward as far as what's comfortable for you, that sweet spot. And then coming back up. Now we're going to send the right leg out, bringing the left foot toward your right thigh, and placing your right hand alongside of your knee with the back of your hand against the knee. And then we'll raise our left arm up along our ear and slide the right hand down toward the right foot. And we're going to pivot, take a nice little stretch over to the right. And take a breath or two here. And then we're going to pivot our torso so we're looking at our knee, keeping our hands down toward our feet. And then we'll walk our hands back up our right leg and come back to cobbler's pose. And then we'll extend the left foot out, bringing the right foot in toward the left thigh. With the left hand, the back of the left hand, we'll rest it against the inner part of the left knee. We'll send the right arm up alongside of our ear and send our left hand down toward our toes, creating an arc around that. And take a few deep breaths here, or as deep as you can. And then we'll pivot our torso so our eyes are looking at our knee. Our hands are still extended down toward our feet. And then we'll walk our hands back up our leg. Come back to seated, to seated pose. And then we're going to come up into tabletop with our wrist right below our shoulders, knees right below the hips, navel tucked to the spine. And then we'll send our nose to the right. And then bring the nose back to center. And then send it to the left. And back to center again. We'll again go to the right. And this time just keep going back to center and over to the left, creating a nice flow. And then once you reach the left side, come back, gently come back over to the right. Just keep that momentum going, gently and softly. And then we'll all meet back in the middle with our eyes gazing down. We'll go into cat-cows. So we'll round the back, dropping the head and tail for cat. And then inhale, lifting the head and tailbone up, sending the gaze straight ahead for cow. And then again, rounding the back, sending the head down, tail down, exhaling deeply. And inhale, lifting the head and tailbone up for cow. And we'll just continue here. Nice, even flow, synchronizing the movements with your breath. And then we'll come back to tabletop. Once we're in tabletop, we'll kickstand the left foot out, sending the right foot down to the bottom of the mat. Bringing your left wrist right below your left shoulder. We'll do a modified plank, and that'll go into a gate pose. So we're going to sweep our right hand up to the sky. Once it reaches the sky, all the way up to the sky, we're going to lift that hand up to power us over into gate pose. So the right hand comes on the right leg, the left arm comes up and over, and creating that nice crescent shape. And then back down again. Bringing the hand straight up to the sky and sweeping it back down. And we'll do that again, and sweeping the right hand up to the sky. Once it reaches the top, we'll pull our hand up, guiding us over into gate pose. And the right hand comes down on the thigh, the left arm comes up into that crescent shape. We'll bring the left hand back down again. Right hand goes up to the sky and then comes back down. We'll do that one last time, sweeping it up to the sky, then having that hand pull us all the way up and into gate pose, creating that nice crescent shape. Crescent shape of the moon, and then back down and straight up in the sky, and then bringing that right hand back down to the mat. Come back into tabletop, and we're going to bring our right leg and put our foot between our hands. So we're going to bring our right foot with our hands, and then we're going to slide the left foot back, coming into low lunge. So you may want to just tweak, and this is going to be true of a lot of the poses today. Just tweak them to your comfort spot. Find that nice low lunge position. And then we sweep our hands up to the sky. And then back down again. And then with our hands, we're going to walk back, straightening our front leg and sending our toes, flexing our toes up to the sky. And then walk our hands forward, half monkey. We'll send our gaze straight forward, opening up our chest, stretching it out in the hamstring and groin area. quads. And then we'll walk our hands back again, flexing our toe up to the sky. And then walk our hands forward, sending our gaze straight ahead, opening up our chest. And walking our hands back one more time, flexing our toes up to the sky. And then back to low lunge. Then we'll take that right foot, bring it back, so that we're back to tabletop again. And we'll do that on the other side. So we'll kickstand the right foot out, sending the left foot down to the bottom of the mat. Right wrist is right below the right shoulder. Sweep the left hand up to the sky. And once it reaches the sky, we're going to have it pull us up and into gate pose, creating that nice crescent shape. And then we'll bring the right hand back down. We'll do this a little bit more of flow. Sending the left hand up to the sky, sweeping it back down to the mat. And once it reaches the mat, we'll sweep it back up again, up to the sky, lifting ourselves up into gate pose. And then back to modified plank. And then sweeping the left hand back down to the mat. And one last time, sweeping the hand up to the sky, lifting us up into gate pose, and then back down. The hand goes to the sky, and then coming back down to the mat. Come back to tabletop, and we'll go into low lunge again. So we're going to bring our left foot forward, so it's framed by our hands. And just slide our right leg back, maybe just come into runner's lunge. Give yourself a little bit of orientation there, and then send the knee back down to the mat. That'll bring you into low lunge. And then sweep our hands up to the sky, and then back down. And then our half monkey, we'll straighten our leg as we walk our hands back, sending our toes up toward the sky, walking our hands back to the front so they frame the foot, sending our chest forward, our gaze forward. And again, walk our hands back as we straighten out the front leg, sending that toes up to the sky, and then walk back, bending the chest forward, gaze forward, and one last time, walking the hands back, foot's flexed up to the sky, and then walking our hands forward, sending our gaze forward, chest is open. And then we'll come back to tabletop. We'll send that leg back. In tabletop, we're going to go into child's pose, so you can have your choice here of either knees under your hips or sending the knees out to the sides for a wide-legged child's pose, whichever you enjoy the most. And then sending the hips down to the ankles, extending the arms out forward ahead. Then coming back up to tabletop with your knees under your hips. We'll tuck our toes under, walk our hands back, coming into a squat. And then pushing down, coming up into mountain pose. And our toes are going to face the long edge of the mat. We'll lift them up off the mat, spread them apart, bringing them back down, lifting our heels up off the mat, and then bring them back down, really feeling that grounded connection to the earth. And then part of mountain pose, our legs are nice and straight and strong with a flex in the knees, flex in our life. And if you've ever ridden a horse, you have to keep your knees flexed and firm, strong. Navel's tucked to the spine. Shoulders are relaxed and rolled back. Crown of the head reaches up to the sky. We'll sweep our hands all the way up overhead. And exhale, bringing them all the way down to the mat, bending our knees as we go, supporting our lower back. And then inhale, bringing the hands to the shins. Nice flat back, nice long neck, with our gaze straight down. And then dropping the crown of the head down toward the mat. And then sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. And as we bring our hands up overhead, we're going to come up onto our tippy toes. And then lowering our hands and our heels slowly back down. Keep a little more. And then we'll sweep our hands once again all the way up overhead. And as they come up, we'll come up onto our tippy toes. And then lowering our hands down, lowering our heels down with control. Back down. And one last time, sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. Onto our tippy toes. And then lowering our hands and our heels back down. And as we lower our hands, we're going to bring them all the way down to the mat, bending our knees as we go. And inhale, bringing our hands to our shins, creating that nice long spine in the back of the neck for half forward fold. And then dropping the crown of the head down toward the mat. And sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. We'll bring our palms together. And when our palms come together, we're going to interlace our fingers, sending the index finger up to the sky. And then we'll tilt to the right. Come back up. Tilt to the left. Come back up. We'll do that one more time to each side. Tilt to the right. And send your hips out the opposite direction. And tilt to the left. And back up again. And then we'll drop our hands back down to the mat. Bringing our hands all the way down, bending our knees as we go. Inhale, bringing the hands to our shins, nice flat back again, half forward fold. And then setting the crown of our head down toward the mat. I'm going to place both hands, fingertips of our hands in front of our feet. And we'll come down into a squat. So we'll just kind of come up onto the balls of our feet, keeping our knees together and bent. And then bringing the heels back down to the mat, straightening the legs, coming into forward fold. We'll do that 2 more times. So coming back down into a squat. Just supporting yourself with your fingers or hands. And then straightening our legs back up, sending the heels down to the mat, crown of the head down toward the floor. And then one last time, coming into a squat position. And then we'll straighten our legs, sending our heels down to the mat, forward fold. And sweeping our hands all the way up overhead. Palms come together. And then palms come to heart center. And palms come to the back of our hips for supported back bend. So the palms resting on the hips, the fingertips pointing down. Feet are about hip width apart. We're going to tuck our chin toward our chest. Relax our shoulders. And then just drop the shoulders back, coming into a supported back bend. Finding that sweet spot where your breath can continue to flow nice and evenly. And then coming back up to mat pose. Very good. So in honor of the new Lunar New Year, or the Lunar New Year, the new Lunar New Year, we're going to do Moon Salutations. I think we only do these on this class, on this, celebrating the Lunar New Year. And just like sun salutations, which we do a lot during the course of the year, Moon Salutations has specific poses, and it's kind of like the moon goes from full moon to the new moon, which is when the Lunar New Year happens, and then back to the full moon. So there's a very cyclical asanas that happen within this moon salutation. And it's a very grounding and very meditative type of salutation. So particularly this year, having read how fiery and how much we need to be grounded, it's particularly good sequence to come back to time and time again. So let us start. And the way it's done is kind of using this length of the mat. We're going this way and then back again. So I started on one end of the mat. We'll come over to that side and then we'll flow back to this side. So coming into mountain pose, we'll bring our fingers behind our hips and interlace them and just do a yoga lock in mountain pose. Bring our navel to our spine, just really having that straight spine, nice long length, crown of our heads up to the sky. Just really straight posture. And then we'll sweep our hands up overhead, interlacing our fingers, sending the index finger up to the sky. And we'll tilt to the right, toward the inner part of the mat, and then straight up again, and then over to the left, and then back up again. And then we'll come into a wide-legged stance, bringing our hands into a star position. Our toes and heels are, our toes are pointing to the corners of the mat, heels are tucked in at 45 degrees. And then we'll come down, bending our elbows and our knees into goddess pose. And if you do this nice and slowly, it becomes very meditative. And then back up again into star. And then lowering our arms to shoulder height. We're going to pivot our feet to the right and come into triangle pose. So we'll reach forward and then send our fingertips down to the ankles, sending our left arm up to the sky. And then bringing our left arm down, we'll come into pyramid pose. And we'll frame our foot with our hands and gaze at our knee, sending our head toward our knee. And then we're going to bend that front knee and come into low lunge. So you come first into runner's lunge, and then lowering the back knee down, coming into low lunge. We'll sweep both hands up to the sky, and then back down again. And then come back to runner's lunge. We're going to pivot the front foot so that the toes are facing the long edge of the mat, and our knee is going to be facing the long edge of the mat. So it's a one-legged squat, extending the left leg to the side with the toes flexed up to the sky. Kind of get into that position a little bit. And you maybe tweaking as you go. So we'll go slowly so you have time to tweak. And then we're going to come into a wide-legged squat. So my suggestion would be to bring that left foot toward your right foot. And then get yourselves in so that your heels are tucked in at 45 degrees. Your elbows are resting against your legs. And you come into Anjali Mudra. So now we're in the new moon phase. So it was waxing. Now we're going to start the waning back up to the full moon. So we'll come over to the left foot, having the left knee pointing toward the long edge of the mat, and extending the right foot, coming into that one-legged squat. Right toes flex up to the sky. And then we'll pivot and come into runner's lunge. And then lowering the back knee down, coming into low lunge. Sweeping the hands up to the sky. And then bringing them back down. And then back to runner's lunge. We're going to bring that back foot forward toward your left foot a little bit so we can come into pyramid pose. Again, with your hands framing your front foot, sending your gaze to your left knee for pyramid pose. And then we're going to come into triangle pose. So we're going to keep our left hand on the mat and sweeping the right hand up to the sky. And then we're going to lift up and pivot our feet so that our toes are facing the long edge, the corners of the mat, long side of the mat, but corners of the mat. Heels are tucked in at 45. We'll come into star pose. And then into goddess pose. Back to star pose. And we'll move our left foot to the right foot. Bringing our hands together, interlacing the fingers so that the index finger's pointing up to the sky. And we'll tilt to the left, back up straight, tilt to the right, back up straight, and release the hands, bringing down behind your back, interlacing your fingers, and coming into mountain pose with the yoga lock. And then we'll relax. Great, that's one phase. Now we're going to go from this side back to that side. So again, we're in the full moon phase here. We'll start with our fingers interlaced behind our back for yoga lock. And then release, bring them up and over. Interlace our fingers overhead. Index finger points up. We'll tilt to the left toward the inner part of the mat. And then tilt to the right. And then back up straight. And then we'll come into wide-legged stance again. Coming into a star position. Toes are pointed to the corners of the mat. Heels are tucked in at 45 degrees. And we'll come into goddess pose. Slowly coming down. And then slowly coming back up again. We'll bring our arms to shoulder height. Pivot our feet to the left. And we'll come into triangle pose. So we'll reach forward with our left hand, send it down to our leg, down toward the mat. Send it, keeping our right hand up to the sky for triangle pose. And then bringing the right hand down to the mat. Coming into pyramid pose. And then coming into runner's lunge. And bringing the back knee down to the mat. Top of the back foot comes down as well. Sweeping our hands up to the sky. And then bringing our hands back down. Coming back to runner's lunge. We're going to pivot the left foot so the toes are facing the long edge and the knees facing the long edge. Coming into a one-legged squat. The right leg is extended out and toes are pointing up to the sky. And then we'll slide our right foot toward our left. We come into wide-legged squat. And then we'll come into one-legged squat, sending our left leg out to the side, toes pointing up to the sky. And then we'll pivot into runner's lunge. Comfortable runner's lunge. And then bring our back knee down to the mat, coming into low lunge. Sweeping our hands up to the sky. And then back down again. Coming back to runner's lunge. I'm going to bring that back foot forward a little bit so we can come into pyramid pose. And then anchoring with our right hand on the mat, we're going to sweep our left hand up to the sky for triangle pose. And then we'll have that left hand pull us up into wide-legged stance, bringing our arms up to star pose. And then bringing our elbows and bending our knees and our elbows, coming into goddess. And then bringing our hands back up to the sky. We'll bring the feet over to the left. So you're moving your right foot to your left. We'll bring our hands up overhead, interlacing the fingers, index finger pointing to the sky. We'll tip over toward the inner part of the mat, and then back up to the sky, and then tip over to the other side. Back up to the sky, releasing our hands, bringing them back of our hips, interlacing our fingers back there for yoga lock, and release. Whew. So that was a full moon sequence. We still have quite a bit of time, and typically I do that twice. So join me if you'd like. We'll go through it one more time. We'll go a little faster. So starting with the yoga lock, mountain pose. Inhale, sweeping our hands up, interlacing the fingers, pointing to the sky. Toward the inner part of the mat, we'll tilt, and then back up. Outer part of the mat, and then come back up. Come into wide-legged stance. Heels coming in 45 degrees. Come into star pose. Then down to goddess. Then back up to star. Bringing our arms down to shoulder height, pivoting our feet. We'll go into triangle pose and reach forward. Send your hand down to the sky, to the mat rather. Left hand to the sky. Left hand comes down. Come into pyramid pose. And then from there you go into runner's lunge, bending the front knee, and then sending the back knee down to the mat for low lunge. We'll sweep our hands up to the sky and back down again. Come back to runner's lunge, pivoting the front foot so that the toes face the long edge of the mat and the knees facing the long edge of the mat. One-legged squat, extending the left leg, toes flex up to the sky. And then we'll slide our left foot toward our right so that we can come into a wide-legged squat. And then we'll move over to our left leg, sending our right leg out for one-legged squat. Right leg's extended, toes are out, flexed up to the sky. And then we'll pivot to runner's lunge, sending our back knee down to the mat, sweeping our hands up to the sky, and bringing them back down again. Coming back to runner's lunge. We'll bring the back foot forward so we can come into pyramid pose. And then with our left hand on the mat, sweeping the right hand up, coming into triangle pose. And then having that right hand pull us up into wide-legged stance with the arms up to the sky for star pose. And then we'll come down to goddess. And then back up to star. And bring the left foot to the right foot. Hands come together, interlace the fingers. We'll tilt toward the inner part of the mat. Then straight up again. Tilt to the outer part of the mat. Straight up again. And then release our fingers, only to bring them behind us, interlace them again for mountain pose and yoga lock. And then relax. Okay, and then one last round, sweeping our hands up, overhead. Fingers point to the inner part of the mat, then back up, and then to the outer part of the mat, back up. We'll come into wide-legged stance, star pose, and then come down to goddess, back up to star pose. Bringing our arms down to shoulder height, we'll pivot our feet to the left. Send the left fingers forward and down, coming into triangle pose. And then bringing the right hand down, framing the feet. We'll come into pyramid pose. And then sending our feet back, coming into runner's lunge. Back knee comes down, coming into low lunge, and then sweep our hands up to the sky, and then back down again. Back to runner's lunge, and we'll pivot our left foot so it's facing the long edge of the mat. Left knee's pointing to the long edge of the mat. And then we'll bring our right foot, after it's pointed up to the sky for a little bit, we'll slide that right foot in closer and come into wide-legged squat. And then we'll pivot so that we come into runner's lunge with our left foot forward. And our knee goes down. And then sweeping our hands up to the sky. And then back down again. And then we'll lift our left foot so that it comes into pyramid pose. Sweeping our right hand up, triangle pose. Right hand comes back up, and we're come into wide-legged stance. Coming into star, and then down to goddess, back up to star, and then bringing our right foot to our left. Hands come together, index fingers pointing up, tilt toward the inner part of the mat, and then back up, and tilt to the outer part of the mat, and back up, and release, bringing them behind you, doing mountain pose with a yoga lock to finish it off. Well done. 2 full cycles of moon, bringing us to Lunar New Year. Alrighty, we're going to take our little pinky toes to the edge of the mat, keeping our heels tucked in at 45 degrees. We'll come down, back down to that wonderful wide-legged squat. And then we'll bring our sit bones down. We'll roll down to the end, or roll down to the mat, and you can either have your knees bent or straight, or use the express method. And I'll join you once my back hits the mat, bringing our knees to our chest and giving them a nice hug. So we're kind of going to rock and roll for a little bit, massage our lower back. Envision this being the new moon. And then we'll take our toes and make nice big circles, envisioning the full moon. You can have them go one way for a little bit. And then when you're ready, reverse the direction. And then we'll slide both feet down to the end of the mat, preparing for Shavasana. So we'll send the heels into the corners and let our whole bodies just melt into the mat. Just relax. And this be the calm before the storm. The hands are facing up toward the sky. Take a few deep breaths. Really exhale, not exhale. You can do that too, but exhale, relaxing on each exhale. And as you do that, I have some tips that were given, not part of the integrated acupuncture, but on another website. So, tips to navigate the year of the fire horse. One is to stay grounded and cool the fire. To balance the intense fire energy, incorporate water elements into your life. Increase hydration and practice relaxation techniques to manage stress. Another one is to embrace mindful action. While the year encourages taking action and chasing dreams, avoid reckless impulsivity. Pause before making major decisions, as the year can feel overwhelming. Another one is to prioritize rest and self-care. Fire horse energy brings high momentum, making it easy to burn out. Actively schedule time to rest, or time for rest, silence, and solitude to balance the high energy social and professional demands. Another one, focus on environmental stability. Keep your home and workplace tidy using earthy elements like pottery, ceramics, and warm tones to create a grounded, calm atmosphere. Second to the last is cultivate resilience and adaptability. There we go. Adaptability. Trust your intuition, but support it with practical action. Be prepared for rapid changes and remain flexible rather than forcing stability in areas that are shifting. And last, foster authentic relationships. Focus on meaningful, honest connections. The energy of the year favors independence and loyalty, so nurture relationships that offer genuine support. So happy Lunar New Year, everyone.